after being recognized by the chair. Please do not interject when the board is deliberating. Public comment, you need to be recognized by the chair. You have 1 to 2 minutes to state your comments. Please remember this is not a Q&A forum. Direct your statements to the board and not the applicant. And finally, I want to remind everyone that this commission is comprised of your neighbors who have given up their time to help protect our town's natural resources. Our job is to ensure the provisions of the Wetlands Protection Act as well as the town's bylaws are upheld. Again, as volunteers, we do this to the best of our ability. We appreciate your understanding. All right, for new filings, I'd like to open file DEP file number SE66-2030. Sarah Alyssa, care of BSC Group LLC, filed a notice of intent for the reconstruction of a single-family dwelling, installation of an elevated septic tank, tight tank, and construction of an external elevated stairway at 2 Whitecap, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 94, parcel 101-1. Just like to read a continuance for that. Email dated September 18, 2024. Good morning, Sean. I am reaching out to request a continuance for the October 2nd hearing, as our butter notifications were not sent out at a week prior to the hearing tomorrow. I will send proof of mailing today. Let me know if you have any questions or need anything else. Thank you, Hannah, with BSC Group. So I want to do a motion to continue.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue DEP file number SE66-2030, Sarah Alyssa Guiac, care of BSC Group LLC, for your notice of intent for the reconstruction of a single-family dwelling, installation of an elevated septic tank, and construction of an external elevated stairway at 2 Whitecap Path, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 94, parcel 101-1, to the October 2nd meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to continue filings. Opening up DEP file number SE66-2027, Bruce McAgapillin, care of Merrill Engineering, filed a notice of intent for renovation of existing home, removal of patios and landings, construction of new decks, demolition and reconstruction of existing detached garage, vegetation management, landscaping, and site work at 206 Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 43, parcel 21.
Can we move this backwards until Jeremy gets here? Can we move this one?
Oh, yeah, I figured it'd be here.
Yeah.
We could give him that 3 minutes.
Yeah, so guys, just so you know, two of us
Yeah,
went
I wrote
on the
this,
site
yeah.
visit. Can we move you back? Can we put someone in front of you until Jeremy gets here? Because he's the only other one that went on the site visit, and I really think his input would be really important in this filing. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Perfect.
we'll open
Really
one up.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Sean, how can I move to the next one? Yeah, just move on. Okay. All right, we'll move right down. DEP file number SE66-2028, Kristen Pollard, care of Down Cape Engineering, notice of intent to raise and replace a single-family dwelling at 7 Georges Rock Road, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 74, parcel 52.
Good evening. For the record, Danny Gonzalez, professional engineer with Down Cape Engineering, here on behalf of the Pollards and their property, Georges Rock Road. As you mentioned, this project was continued. There were some questions about a door off the garage, which we added to the plan, as well as a walkway from the accessible ramp out to the street. So we added those details, submitted the revised plan, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Public comment? Closing public comment, opening it up to the board. What do you guys think? Would you like the revised plans?
I think so. We've got the roof leader trenches in there. The vegetation was good. They're showing that side stoop, which was a little bit in conflict with the previous plan.
Details, they did those. We were looking for. Anything else, guys?
Right, the new previous paper walkway. Do you have the site plan up? Is that?
It is, yeah.
We did the drywall.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Wait.
leaching trench.
Yeah, okay. So they had-
I think we're good.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone want to do a motion? Did you want to say anything?
Confirm that all these things are,
Yeah, that way they're on there,
they're all
yeah.
checked
Yeah.
off. Okay. So the dry well.
They did the leaching pit,
the
yeah.
leaching pit, okay.
Yeah.
As long as that's done, then I'm okay with that.
Anyone want to do a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to close and approve DEP file number SE 662028, Kristen Pollard, care of Down Cape Engineering, Inc., for the notice of intent to raise and replace a single-family dwelling at 7 Georges Rock Road, Sandwich, Massachusetts, file number map 74, parcel 52, with standard and special conditions as discussed.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moved. Thank you. That was easy.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open this one back up. Jeremy?
I'm sorry, Commissioners, who seconded that motion? Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, open it back up. DEP file number SE 66-2027, Bruce McAgapin, care of Merrill Engineering. Notice of intent, renovation of existing family home, removal of patios and landings, construction of new decks, demolition and reconstruction of existing detached garage, vegetation management, landscaping and site work at 206 Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 43, parcel 21.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers. Also, nice to see you again. Also with me this evening is Cameron Larson for DCR. I believe we were here 2 weeks ago when the project was presented. There were 2 or 3 items the board asked us to address. We have provided a revised vegetation management proposal that I'll let Cam talk about in a second. And the other 2 items that were in my court were, you asked us if you look to the, I guess I'll call it the top of the screen, adjacent to the garage and the house, there's a pavement area there. We actually spoke with the client. It's pretty beat up, and it's going to get even more beat up from the construction, removal of the garage and the construction of the new garage. So we're going to replace that with gravel, so it would be a pervious area versus pavement. And the other item that you asked us to address was the hot tub. So there is no provider now at this time. They haven't selected a hot tub manufacturer and provider, so it's hard to get a contract. I know you were looking for a contract. So what I did do is suggest some potential language for a condition that was just recently added to a project that I did down in Wellfleet, so that's where that came from. So hopefully that addresses any concerns the board might have on the hot tub. I'll let Cam talk real quick about the management plan, and then we'll answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Tim. So again, Cameron Larson with ECR. Since the last meeting, we've revised the vegetation management plan to include the recommendations and the request for additional information that the board had. We provided a specific timeline that includes the treatment, monitoring, and reporting that'll be ongoing over the 3 years of the life of the permit, and that'll be associated with all the management of the vegetation. We've also included some details regarding the vines that are impacting the mature tree canopy out there. That was something that Jeremy had brought up. If you were out on site, you certainly saw the vine growth that's affecting that canopy, so those would be removed. And then lastly, we came up with an estimate of the number of plantings we expect will be required to restore once the invasives are removed. I was back on site last week just to confirm the estimate of the quantity of invasives that exists within the management area. I'm estimating that about 10 to 20% of that area exists as invasives, so using the
How many
total square...
percent? I'm sorry, how many?
10 to 20%. So using the total square footage of the management area, and accounting for the 10 to 20%, we're able to come up with a quantity, and we're estimating between 42 and 84 plantings will be required to restore that. So I hope that addresses the questions and additional information that the commission needed. I'd be happy to address any more questions tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open it to public comment. All right, closing public comment, open it up to the board. I know.
Jeremy, do you want to start?
Yeah, so we were out there on Saturday morning. It's a property that is, growing up, you drive past it because there's excellent wildflowers right at the end of that driveway. Anyone that's in Sandwich knows that in the spring, that's like the spot for like a beautiful wildflower patch. So it's kind of like I grew up right down the road, so kind of an iconic little house up on the hill. So definitely the driveway was as we're walking up, like it's in rough shape. So that was our thought of like, I wonder if they're planning to do something with driveway. So when we saw that, we're like, okay, this makes sense. So to the, I guess if we're looking at it here, so it's south of the house, there's a wetland very close, and it is, I wouldn't say a vernal pool. It's definitely, there's standing water with the drought, I think a vernal pool. The other wetland over here is definitely dry, bushwhacked out to that one. That's as you're driving up the driveway on the right. The one on the back is very close to the lawn. Coming out of the back of the house, we have, it looks like drainage pipes from the roof that's already draining it. There was some compromised growth buffering that lawn and that wetland. There's some nice high bush blueberries there. There's definitely a lot of greenbrier that's growing up in the back. So then we walked around looking at, and I think one concern we had was that the house is just up on a hill, and then right down from that hill is that wetland right there. So thinking like a hot tub is up on a hill next to a wetland was a concern that we had. The growth, I mean, there's some really excellent mature trees back there. We have some mature high bush blueberries back there, so I think a concern was there's nothing really noted on the plan of mature trees. Are these trees getting removed? Are lower branches being trimmed so we don't have more vines coming up? And as noted, like there's some trees that are totally consumed by growth, especially as you're driving up the driveway to the right. We were looking for flags. That 100-foot buffer, as there's a kind of gravel road, there's a new development off of Chipman that gravel road goes up to. That 100-foot buffer, we didn't see flags along that road, but there were certainly some in there. The wetland did have some flags noting it. That's right by the house, but there wasn't, when I bushwhacked through to the wetland there, it took me a while. It's really thick brush. There wasn't anything marked.
I didn't do that. I didn't go on that.
It's like, it was so hot, I was like, oh my goodness. So we definitely had some concerns when it comes to vegetation management, when it comes to mature trees, of that hot tub that's sitting up on a hill, and how is this getting done? I mean, are you going in with clippers? Is it Gravely that's going to be going through? This is a massive amount of brush, and I think the process of removing brush is something that should be intentional. And to be honest, to remove that much brush intentionally is going to take you a really long time. And I think the concern is if you're going with machines, it's a vast disturbance of this property that we certainly were like, how are they going to do this in a way that's...
That's right. And none of the trees were actually noted on the plan. So we were looking for, okay, where are we? Which trees? How many trees are there? Which ones are you planning to cut down? The ones that have the invasives on them? What does the vegetation management look like? Like you can say, we're going to cut and swipe and do that and that whole thing. That will take you probably maybe 50 guys for 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's a
not,
huge
that's
property.
not necessarily true. There's invasive management with cut and swipe methods.
That was our question, right?
But you should walk us through what you're proposing.
Yeah, I'm happy
for
to do
your
that. I think I can address
methods.
pretty much everything that's come up here at this point, so.
So can you walk us through so that we can understand
Yeah.
how exactly
Where they are.
the crews are going to tackle the removal of those vines, and then we'll kind of get into the next layers of things. So first, let's just talk about how it gets accomplished.
Let me start by saying that this vegetation management plan was designed for the property owner to be able to manage the buffer zone and the invasives in the buffer zone and be a good steward of the land. This isn't triggered by any type of mitigation requirement by any means. So just to put that out there so we're all on the same page, this is something that the applicant wants to do. He wants to take care of his land, and he's appreciative of the wetlands and the buffer there. So with that being said, I think most of these questions are outlined in our vegetation management plan that we supplied. So it's strictly invasive species that we're removing. So we're not going to be touching any of the existing native species. And the methodology that'll be utilized is a very targeted approach. All the treatment of herbicide treatment will be done by a licensed herbicide applicator. The method that they refer to, or they call it, it's a cut and paint method. So the invasive species are identified for treatment. It's unlikely that this entire buffer zone is going to be treated all at once. This is, like you said, it's a big area. So the licensed herbicide applicator and the property owner will likely work in quadrants or sections of that buffer zone. They'll go in, they'll identify by flagging the invasive species, and then once that's done, they'll go in with hand loppers or hand saws and cut a flush cut at the base of the invasive plant. They'll immediately remove that brush, and then immediately the remaining stems and stumps will be hand painted with an herbicide. So it's a very targeted approach. The idea is that nothing's going to be, none of the non-target species will be impacted by the treatment. It certainly is labor intensive, but it's the most effective at, maintaining, the goal of just removing invasives. We have outlined that there will be no trees removed as part of this, so we're not removing any trees on site. We did spec out anything I think greater than 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches is usually what we call out in caliper, will not be touched. So there are some black locust trees out there that are invasive that won't be removed. So mostly it's woody saplings and shrubs and the vines. The vines will be treated, they're all woody vines, they'll be treated the same way, so they'll be flush cut to the ground, they'll be painted with the herbicide, and then as much as possible by hand, the vines will be removed from the trees. Eventually all that vine growth is going to die back. And then the timeline specs out basically over a 3-year period. The idea is they go into an area, they treat everything, then they evaluate at the end of the growing season, see what's come back or hasn't come back. The target goal is usually about 80% removal of the treated plants the first year. The next year, their target will be 95, and then ultimately 98 to 95% of removal of the treated plants. So it's all that's detailed in here. Again, it's all going to be completed by a licensed herbicide applicator, and the intent is to manage the site and provide a betterment as a steward of the land, basically. Hopefully that addresses and alleviates some concerns.
Just a quick question. It looked like there was a dog run on the side, right? On the left side as you go up the driveway. There was a shed, and then there was a gate, and then another gate. But I don't see it on the map. Is that where the property line is, and is that being removed, or is that going to stay?
Where specifically are you talking about?
It's right next to the garage.
Thank you.
Is it to the left of the garage?
Yeah.
That's on the abutting property.
So it seems like that garage crosses into
Yeah,
the
it
abutting
does,
property.
and this project is going to zoning as well.
Okay, gotcha.
To tear it down and rebuild, then it'll be rebuilt on our property. So that, I think that dog run you might be talking about is on the adjacent property.
Okay.
Any other questions for the
And
vegetation?
for vegetation?
Yeah. For that one.
Who oversees the vegetation? Oh, sorry, Chuck. Yes. I'm sorry.
Hi, we haven't met yet. My name's Charles Katuska. I'm a contract employee pinch hitting with the Conservation Commission until they hire their next agent. And I've been out to the site. I've reviewed the materials that you've submitted, and your revised vegetation management plan, before we get off the comments that you just made, it uses a term which I haven't seen before, and it's undefined, where you identify nuisance vines in addition to invasive species that you'll remove. And specifically mentioning grapevines and Virginia creeper, which are native plants of high wildlife value. So the revised materials that you've submitted seem to suggest that you're going beyond just invasive species. And I think that's an important distinction. This takes on more of a flavor of a landscaping project rather than an invasive species control project. I mean, when you mentioned the 4 species up top, yes, they are identified by MEPAG as invasive plants. As I'm sure you've seen, I know I've seen, and the commissioners have probably seen, porcelain berry is a huge problem out there. That's formally classified as likely invasive. Now, I see that you've included that in this go-round, and I certainly support that particular inclusion. Native grapevines, native Virginia creeper, I don't see where that's appropriate in an invasive species control plan.
It is an aggressive native. So when you're talking about trying to give some less aggressive beneficial plants a chance to thrive, the Virginia creeper is definitely a nuisance plant, and it does not provide as much habitat as a blueberry bush, a Myrica gale. So in terms of the benefit of the removal of that particular vine to the understory, it's hugely beneficial to the understory to remove that aggressive native.
Be that as it may, Commissioner, that moves completely away from the concept of invasive species control. If this is a vegetation management proposal for landscaping purposes, let it be called such.
That is not for land, I
Let it be called
fully
such.
disagree. That is not for landscaping purposes. They are proposing a plan that, quite frankly, this land has been left for no one to do nothing has been done. That is why there's invasive vines all over it. They are proposing to clean this up. And you can tell, when I was there are two black locust trees that have already fallen over because there's so much invasive vine on them along the driveway. That is going to continue to happen to everything that is in there because it is tugging them down.
Of course.
So we cannot forget that we're talking about a client, an owner, who wants to undertake the improvement of this land to remove those invasives, which will have a giant benefit to the habitat surrounding it, a huge benefit. Now, I think that there are things that we need to look at nuance in terms of like the revegetation effort, but in terms of what you're proposing to remove, what they're proposing to remove, I'm very comfortable with what they're trying to do in terms of making this land better. We need to dial in, where I think we need to dial in on is what we're gonna be left with and how to keep that stable moving forward. Because once all these vines are removed, there's likely going to be a lot of dead shrubs and things underneath there. Sure. We might not be left with a lot of vegetation. And so I think the more important question is how can we come up with a plan that creates a very dense understory so that this doesn't happen again? Because likely what has happened in the past is somebody might have done some clearing, removed a lot of good native stuff, let all this invasive stuff come in, stopped managing it, here we are, right? So what do we do once the vines are gone that are going to suppress new material from happening again? What I think is missing in your proposal is an entire like seeding layer, where you could possibly seed that entire area with some kind of native mix so that you're getting good cover back in the understory, because that's there. So there's that, and then there is the fact that there's this question mark because it is absolutely so invaded that you can only really see mounds of what would be shrubs that are possibly twigs underneath there, and we don't know what is going to be left and how full that buffer is going to be afterwards. So I think our job is to try to figure out how we can come up with some kind, what we can agree on for their revegetation effort, reasonable revegetation efforts of this removal. But I definitely think this is a benefit to that wetland to remove
I
those
agree,
invasives.
I think it's going in the right direction. What I would hate to see happen is a complete clearing of everything but the trees, and let everything just fall into the water that's behind it. That's actually on several sides of it.
Yeah.
That is using, that's the buffer
Yeah.
that's the 50-foot buffer that we'd like to leave undisturbed for that particular reason.
Yep.
Right, so, yes, I agree. I'm all about taking out the invasives and making that happen. And if they're willing to do the work that leaves the natives and takes out the invasives, I'm 100% for that.
Yeah, Chuck.
The only thing I'd like to finish up with is, in discussing this in the office, I'm told that in similar vegetation management and replanting projects, that the commission has held to a 2-to-1 planting standard.
Yeah.
So for your consideration, as you continue to talk about revegetation, please be mindful of that.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like you to respond to all that you just got.
Well, I think Bernice kind of covered a little bit of what we heard regarding the vines. So that was a recommendation by Jeremy. If you want to take them out, then we won't touch them. I mean, again, this is not a requirement by any means for the applicant to go in here and do this work. He's willing to go in and make a betterment of this buffer zone. It's certainly not a landscape plan. We're not going in there. We're not clear cutting everything. It's a very targeted approach. It is all outlined in this plan. There's a whole timeline of treatment as well as monitoring. We're spelled out that the applicant's required to have a wetland specialist overview this work. So there's going to be monitoring and yearly reporting to you guys. If you'd like us to come back in here in person as part of that to present the monitoring report, we certainly can. It's going to be very difficult to nail down an exact restoration effort that you guys are kind of wanting to see here. We've done our best to come up with an approximation of the invasives that are going to be taken out and what will be replaced based on appropriate spacing. We've also recommended that the commission could consider a 1-to-1 replacement. I think a 2-to-1, I think you're now getting into typical mitigation requirements, which again, this is not a mitigation requirement. We do want obviously the buffer zone to remain stable. That's in the benefit of the applicant. Seeding is an excellent idea. We can certainly incorporate seeding efforts. Sometimes in wooded areas like this, though, there's very minimal seed to soil contact, so it's kind of hit or miss. But we can certainly attempt seeding. Is a pretty inexpensive thing that can be done by hand. There's appropriate buffer zone mixes that we could utilize. But I do want to stress that there is monitoring and reporting requirements as part of this plan that will be approved if the commission, or will be included if the commission approves this plan. So you guys are going to see more of this as it progresses, and it'll be evaluated by the overviewing specialist to determine, what their recommendations are for restoration plantings. So at this point, I think we've given you as much as we can at this point. To get any more specific into the number of plantings, I think we're just going to be, guessing more on that. So I'll leave it at that.
Any other more concerns? Yeah.
Jeremy,
Like, to be clear, I think this is a great project. Like, off the bat, like, it is incredibly, we are an environment in Sandwich that is built by forest fires, and we have not had forest fires to keep brush down. And what we're doing then is using our human activity to manage overgrowth, that is pulling down trees. And that is not okay. Like, we want healthy trees. And I think that's, of all the things, we want to keep our larger growth healthier. And then how do we also have those blueberry plants that are really strong, that also aren't getting pulled down, because those are getting pulled down too by both invasives, but also native plants as well. So I think I do want to be clear, like, it's not just invasives, there are natives that we also need to manage, and that's okay. It's okay to manage natives. It's just doing it in a way, because I think once as you're driving up that driveway, that wetland to the right is I think typical of a lot of places in Sandwich, that 1880s, the men go away because they're like, Sandwich is boring, I'm going to leave the farm to just grow brush. So we're talking about, in some cases, like, this has not been managed in 140 years. So their project, I think this is really good. I think with the application of some of those treatments, chemically right next to that wetland by the house. I just don't know if it's as necessary as the area here. It's less brush. It seems to be something that can be managed just with hand trimming. It seemed just from that visit there. And I think there's the concern too of if we have this lawn right next to the wetland, when it comes to, is there fertilizers that are getting put down? Are we compromising that wetland by removing vegetation? And that was my concern, just the plantings. There are some nice high bush blueberries there, and just can we maybe focus on that area as I think the highest priority for replantings down as you're going up to the driveway to the right. I mean, as you're bushwhacking through it, as you said, there's so much brush that's been pulled down and it's dead down there, and you're gonna, which is great for plantings because you're like, you have a really great plan of a place that you can get.
I think the cut and paint method near the house, you know, I'd be comfortable with it because it's very specific to, you know, that cut part on the root, so, or on the stump, you know, of the
And there's
sapling. So
less,
I would,
yeah.
yeah. So I would mean, if to be more effective, I would be comfortable with it there. But I do like your point about fertilizer in the lawn area.
I do have another quick question. You have the retaining wall. You want to remove that retaining wall that's holding that tree, that really large old tree up?
It's like in the front as you drive in.
It's like from the 1745 maybe it was built. It looks like, but you have a
Talking about the one behind the house?
one right in front as you're coming up the driveway on the right hand
There's
side.
that gravel driveway, and there's a retaining wall on the left as you're going up the driveway. I don't
you're
know.
going, yeah.
Are they removing that?
That's not proposed to be removed.
No,
Okay.
no.
It's proposed
No, just the retaining wall by the houses.
existing patio.
Scan up a little.
Retaining wall to be removed. I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Sorry, scan down.
Okay, all right. Anyway, okay. So as far as this is, as far as,
It says retaining wall.
Oh, are there any more questions on the vegetation, the management plan?
I think the way that they're doing it makes me comfortable with going ahead with that one.
I knew another one you wanted to talk about, the hot tub.
yeah, that's after this, yeah.
Okay, all right, so I think if everyone's comfortable with it, and, you know, staff spoke up about the issues with the Virginia creeper, which, you know, I think you guys answered that. Bernice had very good points about that, so I think we could, if you guys are okay with it.
We can
Okay.
move forward, sure.
All right, well, let's dive into the other ones. What else did you guys have?
We also saw that the house is on a hill. There's already drainage that goes straight down the lawn into the water behind the house. We don't normally approve hot tubs in scenarios like this where it's too easy, where it's easy to just pull a plug and it would just drain. You know, we can say, oh yeah, the company will come out and they'll extract the chlorinated water and they'll bring it over here, but we really don't have any way to oversee that. We really don't have a way to manage that. So I'm just not comfortable with a chlorinated hot tub so close to so many natural resources. That's my personal opinion. So you guys can do with that what you will.
Here's, I think we're probably just gonna not agree on this, but from when you're talking about in terms of impact, like on the day-to-day, we allow septic systems, like leaching nitrogen into the resource area without a bat of an eye. So in terms of like, the minimum impact that small hot tub is going to have, it's very minimal. Water that is irrigated, that you irrigate with, is chlorinated many times to a higher level than what you're finding in a hot tub. So those are the things that I think about. I think what the applicant had suggested was that when the water needs to be taken away, that they're willing to show for it to be proof that it's to be removed. So we can
I was just
rely
trying to
on
come
that.
up with a condition that would help the board make a decision. I personally don't own a hot tub, but the people I've spoken with said that they don't really drain their hot tub unless,
They don't drain it in the winter?
no.
They let
They
it,
use it in the winter, there's a cover on it. Most of the people use their hot tub in the winter rather than the summer. And the only time it's drained is when there's maintenance, and some of the people have had them for 10 years and said they've never drained it.
Okay.
But the board needs to feel comfortable. So what I was trying to do is provide a condition other towns use.
I got you.
So that,
Go ahead,
Have,
Chad.
Commissioners, have you had a chance to read? The applicant did provide a draft special condition. If any chlorinated hot tub water is to be removed, it shall be trucked off-site and disposed of properly outside any resource area or buffer. This condition shall remain in perpetuity and shall not be released by a certificate of compliance.
Thank you for reading that.
Thank you very much.
For your consideration. No, it's the applicant's suggestion. I just wanted to make sure that they,
and that's the exact condition from a Wellfleet
Right.
project. that
Very
was
well
recently was-
written, very well written.
Okay.
Yes. I'm done.
So you'd be comfortable with that, with that condition?
You guys can go ahead and take a vote.
The only other thing I do want to mention is that the 10-inch tree right behind the newly proposed gravel pad is in very poor health. Probably should be looked at and might want to be considered remove and replace. It is on its last leg. And along the driveway, you've had some tipping of trees in the front as well. So you might want to have an arborist come and look, and then if you want to do any removals of trees, come back to and propose that particular removal. But there is something there.
I'd agree with that. Would you go 2-1 on that, or do you think it's an area that really only
I think
requires a
it-
1-1?
I think if they remove a tree, plant a tree, if the tree needs to be, if they want to remove the tree, or that tree's in poor health, an arborist is not gonna be able to rehab that tree.
No, I meant if they do remove something of mature growth,
I think 1-to-1 is plenty,
Okay.
is fine. Now, can we condition them for the seeding effort and the organic fertilizing, and close the hearing, or do you want to have something put down for that?
Are you part of it?
The seating part wasn't in it. No, we talked about it. I guess if you had a specific seed that you think would work, how would you,
It's a native seed mix. I mean, I think you would want to see a native seed mix that's
they gonna be held to-
specifically conditioned to whatever conditions,
Right.
like conditions that you have within a particular area, which might actually change
We
throughout
use
the
them quite
site.
often. We source them a lot of times from New England wetland plants.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, we
Something
can definitely
along
get a
that
spec
line,
sheet
yeah.
to you guys for a buffer zone seed mix that would come from them.
Okay, yeah, if you guys are comfortable with those conditions and
Great.
in the language, all right?
Okay.
Let's do a motion.
So, to recap, they're gonna provide, we're gonna close it with the condition that they're gonna provide the seed mix.
In the chlorinated water
The chlor-
that was discussed by, Chuck read that out loud at the meeting
Yeah,
tonight, so you don't have to say that again.
and, we're gonna, stipulate the use of only organic, fertilizers within the lawn area.
You guys agreeable to that?
that's fine. Most other towns have that as a standard condition, so.
Okay, all right, if someone wants to do a motion.
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to close and approve DEP file number SE 662027, Bruce McElphin, care of Merrill Engineering, for the notice of intent for the renovation of an existing home, removal of patios and landings, construction of new decks, demolition and reconstruction of existing detached garage, vegetation management, landscaping, and site work at 206 Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 43, parcel 21, with special and standard conditions as discussed.
Second. One in. Second. All in favor?
Abstain.
Moved.
sorry, that was one abstention.
All right, okay, opening,
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
you as well.
All right, opening DEP file number SE 66-2029, Albert Makel, care of Down Cape Engineering, notice of intent for an elevated wooden walkway, 55 North Shore Boulevard, Sandwich, Mass, located at map 78, parcel 5.
Good evening again. For the record, Danny Gonzalez, Down Cape Engineering. This project was continued from the last hearing. We're doing a proposed elevated wooden walkway over the dune. Some of the comments that we added to the plan were some snow fence within the existing pathway to kind of build up the sand there and also prevent people from walking through it. We put a 2-foot kind of work area around the wooden walkway, as well as we added a note about any kind of cutting that's done on site is to be vacuumed up or done off-site preferably. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I think those were big ones, cutting PVC trim all over the sand dune and looking at it when we went and did a COC or something. So yeah, I like those notes.
Sorry, I do want to mention, we did get a letter back from Mass Wildlife, and they had some time limits for construction, so those would likely be added to the order of conditions as well.
I'd like to open it for public comment. All right, closing public comment, opening it up to the board. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Anything? Any questions?
Got the letter, okay. Remind me, because the mitigation plan is, you got 2 to 1?
So it's just a straight restoration of the pathway that's there and anything that's disturbed during construction.
I think the note about the revegetation of the disturbed area is a little light. Is that defined in any other way?
Well, we have the proposed work area shown on the plan, so obviously that would get revegetated, but it's a little bit tough to say exactly what areas are going to get disturbed. I mean, we can guess at what path they're going to take, and they'll tread lightly, but
I guess if we go to do a COC and there's disturbed areas with no growth, that would allow us to say, you can't get a COC, you need to fix this area. We kind of covered this,
The area
right?
is currently covered entirely with beach grass. So the applicant would be responsible for entirely covering the area with beach grass.
And it would have to
Yeah.
take, what is it, 90%?
98 or 95?
Yeah, something.
Okay.
And so we're confident that that would be overseen by staff and that would happen.
Well, they have to issue the
For
COC.
the COC, they would have to see that the vegetation has grown in to
Yeah.
full coverage. Right, full coverage
Yeah,
for that
proposed
2,
work
for
areas,
that
right.
2 foot. And hopefully, you're gonna see that maybe there's even more growing underneath.
Yeah, and they also said the way it was, the height would allow some sun, to maybe some vegetation. We talked about that.
Chuck, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Only that I believe your architectural sketch for the walkway shows a 1/4 inch separation between the deck boards. And in the office, I'm informed that 3/4 of an inch is the standard here to allow for additional light penetration under the walkway. 3/4 of an inch doesn't provide a problem for walking or, heaven forbid, a crutch tip to go through. But what's proposed is 1/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch is recommended.
Is there a way to do that so we can close and approve and not have to?
Simply condition it that way, yes.
Are you okay with that condition? And then when we go for the COC, we're gonna request an as-built survey
sure.
of the completed project. Is that something that you guys can do? Okay.
All right, I'm okay with that.
All right, perfect. I think we can move it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanna do a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion. I would like to close and approve DEP file number SE 66-2029, Albert Mayhill, care of Down Cape Engineering, for the notice of intent for an elevated wooden walkway at 55 North Shore Boulevards, Sandwich, located at map 78, parcel 5, with special and standard conditions as discussed. In particular, 3/4 inch depth in the walkway. Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, let's do this. Open in DEP file number SE 66-2023, Marion Sullivan, care of Marsh Mathers Environmental, filed a notice of intent for construction of a garage with a second-story apartment and replacement of a septic tank at 148 Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 73, parcel 76-0. We have an email from Michael Ball of Marsh Mathers Environmental, dated September 18th, 2024. Hi, Sean, please forward this hearing continuance request to the Conservation Commission. On behalf of the NOI applicant, Marion Sullivan, MME, requested a hearing continuance to October 2nd, 2024. Status: the proposed project footprint has been modified so that the deck and stairs providing access to the second-story apartment have been moved away from the building corner and to a location along the west side of the building, and therefore away from the 3 mature Norway maple trees. Potential impacts to which there is commission concern. MME has requested that the project designer and builder contractor meet on site to identify what degree of pruning, limb removal of a nearby black cherry tree will be necessary to accommodate the updated project design. This information will need to be included on the revised site plan. We anticipate that revised site plan, project plan, will be ready for submission to your office in approximately 1 week from today. Respectfully, Mike Ball, Marsh Matters Environmental. With that, someone can make a motion to continue to October 2nd, 2024.
I'd like to make a motion to continue DEP file number SE 66-2023, Marion Sullivan, care of Marsh Matters Environmental, for the notice of intent for the construction of a garage and a second-story apartment, replacement of a septic tank at 148 Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass., located on map 73, parcel 76-0, to be continued to the October 2nd meeting.
Second. Jeremy, second.
Jeremy, say it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moved. Have we looked over the COCs? They're good to go?
One of them is, one of them is not.
All right, we'll just move it. Which one is it? It's the first one. I'd like to open up DEP file number SE 66-1834, Salvatore and Teresa Galeo, trustees, care of VH Associates, filed an after-the-fact notice of intent for the installation of a Title V septic system at Assessors Map 96, Parcel 9 at 245 and 245, located at 293 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass.
Hi, I'm Brian Hebb. I'm the owner of 293 Phillips Road. This was a order of conditions before I bought the house for the septic system. It was never closed out, so.
Chadwick.
And we have received an as-built plan on the septic system, and this project, this order of conditions is ripe for your consideration for certificate of compliance. I believe Sean's got the signature sheet for you to sign.
Perfect.
So everything's in order.
All right, well, with that, then I'd like to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number SE 66-1834, Salvatore and Teresa Galeo, trustees, care of VH Associates, and after-the-fact notice of intent for the installation of a Title V septic system at Assessors Map 96, Parcel 9 and 245, located at 293 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'd like to open DEP file number, thank you. SE 66-1765, Thomas Zendowski, care of Sabatia, Inc., filed a notice of intent for the proposed raise and rebuild of a single-family home with appendices and elevated walkway with stairs to the beach at Assessors Map 70, not Parcel 91, located at 89 North Shore Boulevard, East Sandwich, Mass.
The only as-built plan received is for the pile foundation. There is no final as-built plan of the project. And although my site inspection would suggest that the project looks okay without an as-built plan, I can't recommend that you issue the certificate for work on the dune specifically.
So how, what do
Continue.
we,
We will,
continue for
we
another?
will inform the applicant that an as-built plan is required under their order of conditions and that the certificate's not ripe for consideration.
Okay. Should we make a motion to continue, or can we just move right on?
You can just pass it by.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Great. All right, moving to other business.
Yes?
Oh, yeah. Do you guys want to come up? We'll keep it open.
Your project looks like it was completed in accordance with the plan, but without an as-built plan, there's nothing on file that says that's true. I'm not a surveyor. An as-built plan is when your engineer or your surveyor goes out and now surveys your post-project conditions. You have a plan of what you propose to build, and now you need a plan stamped by a professional that says this is actually what you built. So the commission can look at one, this is what we agreed to, this is what they actually did, this all looks good.
So,
And why weren't we informed that that
Well,
needed
it's
to
in your permit.
Yeah, it would have
The
been in your
requirement
permit.
is in your permit. So,
Town docs and probably the order conditions.
All right,
So my understanding was that the as-built for the pilings was submitted,
yes,
and that we built exactly to that on that.
and there's decking and other structures that you put on the property. Yeah, the pilings are as-built. Your engineer surveyed the pilings, and that's right. You don't get a building permit without that, never mind a sign-off from the Conservation Commission. But the permit that you were issued to reconstruct that house requires you to to produce an as-built plan as part of your request for a certificate of compliance. And that's not just the pilings that were put in under the house, that's everything that was shown on the approved plan.
They should know that, right? They should have been,
So
Representative would.
my understanding too was that Sebacia Inc., which Bob Gray,
That's Bob Gray, yes.
yeah, he when this project completed, he says everything is done except for the vegetation, revegetation, COC. So
Yeah.
I might have that. He might have already submitted it. Nobody can find it. I don't know the answer to that.
Right, so we would just suggest, since we don't have those two to look at, and I would just call Sebacia Inc. and say, and read from that and say, we need an as-built for the work done. You guys did the engineering for the forms, they got that in, the pylons, they got that in, they approved that, but we don't have an as-built for the work. I need that, that's what we paid you for.
that's right.
And then we'll do another continuance, we come back here, we can see him, it looks good, we're good to go.
Understood.
okay.
Yeah, and all you need is file it, you don't need to come back, you can
Yeah,
just send that
exactly,
in.
we would just issue it, you don't need to be
Issue
here.
it based on that, yeah, that's all we
Yeah.
need.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you for
much.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to other business. SE 66-2008483, Route 66A, Keith Spargo, care of AM Wilson's Associates. We're gonna discuss about the standard and special conditions. Did everyone receive that email
Yes.
from AM?
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Any public comment? None?
I'm
Okay.
good. Arlene Wilson, A.M. Wilson Associates, sorry to keep you here. But we had some significant questions about the order when it came across my desk, and I should have seen it when Sean emailed it to me, and I was up to my eyeballs. And so we lost a few days, but it would have been at the same meeting here anyway. So in particular, it's conditions number 29 and 30, which require a closed system with no backwash and no discharge of any backwash water to the ground. And I think, as some of you will remember, this is an above-ground pool. It's a glorified kiddie pool. I don't think my client will beat me up for saying that. But it it has a backwash system, which the commission looked at and has seen the mechanicals for. And it gets backwashed about every 6 weeks. They get about 99 gallons. They put it in a rain barrel and let it sit a couple of days for the chlorine to dissipate. And then they use it for irrigation on the foundation plantings around the house. And they keep the chlorine level fairly low. They test frequently. So what I was hoping, since those conditions weren't really discussed at the hearing, although I know they're your standard conditions for in-ground pools. What we discussed at the hearing was what they actually do. My understanding was the commission didn't have any problem with what they were doing, and that the motion was to approve with standard and special conditions as discussed. So if I had been aware you wanted him to change the backwash system, I would have spoken up then. But as I say, my understanding was the commission didn't really have a problem in the end with what he was doing, and so I've provided a sheet with some proposed conditions, which I think would cover what he's doing and make sure that he continues to do it carefully, and that anybody who inherits this place and wants to keep the pool will continue to monitor carefully. So it's, you know, I don't know that you want me to read through these. No, that's what
I
thought.
think you know what we're looking for.
So,
Right?
yeah, so I think what you need to do is to vote to reconsider the special conditions, and then to delete 29 and 30, substitute the special conditions that I proposed if you approve of them, or others that you might want that would deal with what's actually going on there and renumber the conditions. I'm perfectly happy to give you an extension of time if you feel that's necessary, and we'll close the loop on your file, but it will save us all the heartache of an appeal.
In a nutshell, it was more of a clerical error. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any public comment? No public comment, yeah, all right, open it up to the board. I just didn't like the precedent that would set with every pool that ever
Correct.
came in here, ever.
You guys were fine with the filtration system that was discussed.
That's right, that's right.
It should reflect in the minutes as well when they get done.
Okay.
Okay, so honestly, we don't have to agree, we don't have to do any of these special conditions.
You could make a motion to eliminate 29 and 30.
Yeah.
That's the precedent I don't want to set.
Right.
There's a,
point is-
excuse me, Commissioners,
Thank you,
there's a
please.
protocol for an amended order of conditions.
Right.
That if you, based on the conversations this evening, if you are willing to make a finding that either with or without Ms. Wilson's draft conditions, that this change is neutral or beneficial, neutral would be my interpretation, then it would be reasonable for you to issue an amended order of conditions. Now, having made that finding, the procedure is, I'm sure you've been through this, you would take your letter, send the same letter, copy to DEP. You're required to publish notice and notify the abutters again. The commission holds a public hearing, does what's requested, and then issues formally an amended order of conditions. There's no voting now to change what you already issued. That's
Right.
simply
That's right.
not prudent.
Right.
Right.
But it appears to me that you're willing to consider the modifications that have been suggested and make the finding that this is a neutral change. And under that decision, it would seem to be reasonable to move forward with this is under DEP Program Policy 85-4. There's a policy in place on how to amend an order of conditions. This is it.
But it's just because
This was a clerical error, just to,
what was the
Just-
what exactly was the clerical error?
Okay.
These two well, we agreed to the
so
pool.
we have a list of special
That's right.
conditions
I get
that we have to discuss.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
if
aware.
we talk, two of those, they ended up in the
In the order.
And they were supposed to come out.
conditions.
Oh, they were supposed to come
They-
out.
But we
Yes.
never discussed them. That was not, and so clerically, they got added in by mistake. And so, no, so these were added in, they were not discussed and should not have been added in. What is the process to
I see.
eliminate those two?
Is that
To
correct?
amend the order of conditions.
So amend the order of conditions for the clerical error.
Arlene,
If I might,
yes.
I'm sorry. And I agree with Bernice, that essentially it's a clerical error. You have the ability to correct an order of conditions without going through that process. We're still within the 10-day time period. The applicant's perfectly happy, as I said, providing you with as much time as necessary to crank out a corrected order. And that's what I would call it, as opposed to an amended order, because you can't amend an order unless the original has actually been put on file in the registry, and then you have to put the amended order on, because the registry staff won't let you do anything else, and it gets to be very convoluted with a ton of extra paper. in
So
the-
these formal processes, we do rely on staff to provide us with the best
And
actions to
forward.
path
Right.
forward. If we delete two pretty serious,
They were never,
notes.
the point is, those were never discussed in the hearing.
I agree, but I just don't want anyone else coming back here with a pool that has
That's right.
originally done a pool
That's
and
right.
been like, hey, like you
agree
deleted
with you.
this. you know?
Every plan, every site, the reason we exist as a board is because there's nuances and gray
Right.
areas
Right.
and special conditions for every
Right,
project.
right.
So just because you do something on one project does not automatically give another project a pass on things.
agree.
Because there
I
are
agree.
different betterments, there are different conditions. This particular project had 0 on file. The commission had no record of anything that had been done. So the betterment for this was just to even have some kind of record. on it.
Anything, exactly.
So there's nuances here, so I don't think we need to feel like we have to move forward with abandoning those particular thoughts on other filings.
For this filing, I mean, we're talking about a pool, they're putting in a pool. I still would like to have that condition in there that there's no,
But
dumping of the
We've already
chlorinated
closed
water.
Yeah,
it
we-
without that
right.
condition. It was closed without that condition.
We
I
had
think,
the existing pool it backwashes into a rain barrel that they have on site,
Right.
Yeah.
and they use that rain barrel for irrigation, which we all thought was a great idea.
That was great, that's, I remember
Because it
that.
dilutes inside the barrel, and it
Right,
was
that's
perfect
right.
to go on.
That's right.
So,
So that
I
was-
would have just said that would have qualified it to, if anyone ever said anything about these two notes, I
That's
wouldn't
right.
even have brought it back here, but
That's right,
now that it's here,
that's right.
and
I thought we discussed it.
something's being
That's
said,
right.
you know what I mean?
It wasn't I did go through and re-watch the hearing to make sure, because it is on us to have said that out loud.
Right. But we didn't
did
want
say-
that, we didn't mind the rain barrel.
Correct.
Which we definitely said.
Correct.
I
If we
think
eliminate these entire, both 29 and 30 for a pool, what else are we missing? Like, what else are we gonna, the disposal of off-site in a legal fashion, we're just gonna eliminate that? We're just gonna take that all the way off of the conditions?
Yeah.
excuse me, I think.
We did have we did discuss how it was going to be eliminated.
I think the other thing that got missed in the order that's important for you is that the commission was very specific about support systems for the deck, and that you didn't want sonotubes, you wanted helical piles. And that didn't make it into the order at all. It's one of the things that I've put in my list, if you will, of potential conditions. But the thing that separates this kind of a problem from an amended order procedure is that there's nothing on the plan that's being changed. There are no errors on the plan, there were no omissions on the plan. This is all strictly clerical stuff in the order of conditions. So that's what allows you, I believe, having spent 45 years doing this stuff.
So what we talked about,
Yeah,
You're the chair.
Sean, if this, minus the clerical error, would those two have been on this order of conditions?
They're mainly for an in-ground pool.
So
But
they would have never been on the
no
plan.
direct or
They would have
indirect
never been on the
discharges
order
of pool
conditions
water
list.
are permitted on the lot. There, no direct or indirect discharges of pool water are permitted on the lot.
They were, but the commission was okay with the filtration system that the Sparrows have.
Yep.
That's correct.
and we discussed
So-
if they had to empty the pool, it had to be held off.
Have these on the order.
Our intent was not to have them
I disagree.
originally. Well, we did agree that if they ever moved it off, they
They would truck it off.
they would truck it out.
I
And then the
agree with that.
backwashing part,
That's right.
we did all agree that the rainwater barrel was fine. So technically, we agreed to not have these.
There, I mean, under a technicality, there is a portion, I believe, of 30 that still is applicable, because what we did discuss was that should the pool need to be emptied,
Right, and then
that it would be hauled off.
Right.
Water
that?
would be
Yep.
hauled off.
And that's, yeah, and that makes total sense right here.
So that's in a portion of 30. In the second sentence. Third sentence.
Right. That, yeah, the third sentence, pool water
Yeah,
running
yeah,
required
that's-
disposal.
That's-
So we wouldn't want to delete all of 30 because then it would take away the thing that we did discuss that you guys did agree to.
Thank you.
Well, that's one of the things that I added in that
At the
list
bottom,
of
yeah.
conditions that I think you meant to have.
Currently utilize it.
But
okay.
didn't.
So can we simplify this by saying what pieces, what
Right there.
portions of 29 and
Right here. Oh, sorry.
and 30,
She has them.
there, are you having an issue, are you saying that we did not intend to have in there?
Well, the problem is if that's all you do is tinker with those two.
Okay,
And I'm not
yeah.
saying that that isn't a way to deal with this.
That's right.
But you're still going to miss the issue about the helical piles for the deck and a couple of other things, I think, like wanting building permit when it gets issued for your file and making sure that the lawn doesn't get expanded and, you know, and a clarification that the stone paths that are there can be maintained in place.
I mean, okay, you know what? Yeah, to be honest, I think I actually like those conditions.
Yeah, so you're proposing the suggested special conditions, right? To be,
Pardon me?
you're suggesting, obviously, you've got suggested special conditions. So instead of 29 and 30,
She wants these.
you're recommending
Right.
that we put in these special conditions.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
And,
Can we do that?
yeah,
I'm not a lawyer.
Me
No way.
neither.
What's it,
You want to cut special conditions out of an order that you already issued and substitute new conditions that were never discussed in the public hearing? No, you
They
can't
were
do that.
discussed in public.
These conditions that you've provided,
Not laid out as conditions, but all of those issues were
He's right,
discussed.
he's right.
So what I would say is, because you did allow, like you did say that we could take time, I would continue this. We need to have staff reach out to town council about the best possible way to move forward. Because I think everyone on this board agrees with that, but we don't want to set a bad precedence. We don't want to do anything out of order.
I understand.
And we have we have to hold up our end of the bargain, and I think we just need counsel.
Yep,
And they'll come back.
That's fine.
Perfect.
great.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Do we need to continue this, or are we good?
this isn't a public hearing.
That's what
it's
I
other
thought, right.
business.
Yeah.
This is other business, so
I think that's,
when we're able to get you the information that you
Right.
seek,
we will.
we'll notify you as to what
Exactly.
was said, and I presume either issue a corrected order of conditions at that time, or have you back in for further discussion.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee.
thank you.
Thank you for giving us the time.
Appreciate your time and your patience.
Do you want something in writing from me on behalf of the applicant, giving you whatever time you need to deal with this?
No, well,
Yes,
We have it.
yes, do we have that? I mean, technically, we need to.
But we're gonna
Well,
talk to council
We're
first.
already outside of the two
The order's
weeks, because
already
we've
been
given
issued.
them,
The order's already been issued. I
applied
think
to them,
think
yeah,
that-
the order's been issued.
in this situation, the only thing that would be of value, you can't do.
Right,
You know, you can't extend their appeal rights,
right.
Right.
and
So-
you're not, it's not gonna be solved in the 10-day appeal period. So, absent whatever I might say or think, you have the authority to direct your staff to do whatever you think is prudent in this situation. You're the decision makers. I offer you my opinions.
Yeah, without further knowledge, I mean, what do you say?
We need more information.
Right, I think we just need, but I think that was the 10-day
That's
thing.
what we
but
need more time.
I think that we just need more info.
That's why Arlene was asking if we needed something in writing, giving us more time to deliberate on that, right?
You know what, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. Just send it in, and I think, you know, staff's gonna talk to the council and get that.
And you have a rather unusual section in your bylaw that allows you to rescind decisions. You've heard me talk about this on another case, but it would also allow you to rescind certain sections of an order of conditions, I believe, so maybe you want to know
Well, I think,
that. The town
council will definitely
Yeah.
help us with that, for sure. Perfect.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Don't be sorry.
Are we good to approve these minutes, or?
No minutes.
No minutes, okay. All right, adjournment, I'd like to end the September 18th, 2024 Conservation Commission meeting at a motion to end the 9/18/2024 Conservation Commission at 7:43 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nice.